Long before books and borders, our ancestors spoke through stories. Welcome to African folktales, movies, and storytelling. Power does not fall because of enemies. It falls when truth is no longer welcome. This is the story of a king who ruled a great land, not with cruelty, but with fear of honesty. Long ago, before borders were drawn on maps, there existed a prosperous African kingdom surrounded by fertile land and loyal warriors. At the center of this kingdom sat a powerful ruler known as Oba Kanyin. He was intelligent, he was respected, and in the early days of his reign, he was fair. But power has a way of changing a man quietly, without warning. At first, the king listened to his people. Farmers spoke freely, elders advised boldly, commanders warned honestly. But as the kingdom grew wealthier, the king grew more protective of his authority. He began to see disagreement as disrespect, advice as challenge, truth as threat. One day an old farmer stood before the royal council and said, "My king, your tax collectors are taking more than the people can bear." The room fell silent. The king smiled, but his eyes hardened. That farmer was dismissed from the palace. He was never seen again. From that day forward, everyone understood the rule. Truth was dangerous. Soon the palace filled with men who agreed with everything the king said. Among them was his closest advisor, Bala. Bala never spoke truth. He spoke comfort. When the borders weakened, Bala said, "Our enemies fear us." When food stores declined, Bala said, "The harvest will be greater next season." When soldiers complained, Bala said, "They are loyal and satisfied." And the king slept peacefully. The palace was full of voices, but empty of wisdom. Only one man still spoke the truth. His name was Aremu, commander of the king's guards. Aremu warned the king quietly, "My king, the army is divided. The people are angry. A rebellion is forming in silence." The king stood from his throne in anger. "You speak like a traitor," he said. "Do you wish to weaken my authority?" Aremu was stripped of his title and sent away from the palace. With his exile, truth left the kingdom completely. Rebellion does not always arrive with drums and shouting. Sometimes it arrives at night. Hungry guards, unpaid soldiers, forgotten people. The palace gates were opened quietly, not by enemies but by those who no longer felt seen. There was no battle. There was no defense. By morning, Oba Kanyen sat alone on his throne. Bala, the advisor who lied, had already fled. As footsteps echoed through the empty palace halls, the king whispered, "Why did no one warn me?" And the silence answered him, "Because you punished the truth and rewarded the lie." African wisdom teaches us this: a ruler who fears honesty will always be betrayed by silence. Power does not die in war. It dies when truth is no longer welcome. This is the wisdom of the ancestors. Stories like this were told to guide, not just to entertain. If this story spoke to you, subscribe to the channel for more African wisdom and powerful stories. And remember, every story leaves a lesson.